This is one of our spotlights. Today we're going to talk to Christian Douglas. Christian, tell us where you're from, who you are, and what you're mostly known for.
Well, I'm from Spain. I'm many things. I wear many hats: writer, producer, editor. I just like guy to tell stories. So whatever that needs to be done in order to do so. So I'm gonna be there for it. And I'm known for. I hope so that I'm known for retelling the classical folk tales with a 21st century spin on it. So we started 10 years ago with Red Riding Hood, and now we're finally going to volume two, that's Pinochia. And
Yeah, and let's
we're
take a
working
second.
on.
That is the main thing I want to talk to you about today. I am one
Yeah.
of the lucky recipients of Volume 2. That's Pinochia from Unpopular Tales. And I was telling Christian this backstage. This book is good. I'm recommending it. That's something I don't say too often. This is a good book. I enjoyed the writing, and I like the art style in particular. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started on this title?
On the style, you mean on comics
A
or
little of both.
okay. So on comics, I started like, let's say, 12 years ago. I was like kind of in between creative jobs. I finished out with my brief appearance in cinema, and then I was like kind of a little bit lost. I'm not gonna lie. And a friend of mine just gave me a comic and said, "Hey, maybe you should try this." And he gave me Dark Knight. And the thing is that I have this bias, like a lot of people have. Comics are for kids or just superheroes, blah blah blah. But then he started introducing me back to the thing that they started producing in the late 90s, like Alan Moore and Frank Miller, and especially Neil Gaiman. Well, I remember when I read The Sandman, I said, okay, this is something else. This is not superheroes. This is not um, things for kids. This has a lot of layers. He's talking about a lot of themes. And so I said, okay, so this is an art form. And I said, okay, why not? Let's try it. And since then, I've been trying to create stories. I opted for the thing of the retelling of the classical folktales because I thought it was a very easy way, quote unquote, easy way to create something with a known IP, and but like put it on his head in a way, something similar to what Bill Wyman did with Fables,
Fables, sure.
but in a different kind of way, because I didn't want them all to be related, all to be friends and live in the same place. But in that kind of tone. And my main idea is what would these guys will be writing if they were alive today, the Grimms or the Andersons and the Perrault and all that guy. And I know they won't be deep working for Disney. I'm totally sure about it, or something like it, like hey, everything's good and kumbaya, and everything is solved because we are just believe in ourselves, and magically that's gonna that's gonna solve all the issues of the world. So I say, okay, so let's take this task and let's run with it. But I've done everything. I've done everything from poetry, theater. I have a theater company for many years. That's what my background. That's what I was formed in. So I mentioned before the cinema. I also did the short stories. I won a couple of awards for that. So I've been doing all kind of stuff, novels too. I've done a couple of those too. So I just like to tell stories. I'm working now on video games and animation for years professionally. So just whatever medium there is available, and if we can tell a story, or say why not, just go for it.
Sounds like you got a broad plate there to choose from for different forms of media. What's
Yeah,
your favorite thing
that's
to write for? Do you like writing for novels, comics, poetry? What's your favorite?
my favorite ones. I would like to say is video games. I think because it's a kind of like a new genre to a certain extent. So there's not so many things to explore, as there's still very schematic in a lot of things. So rope RPGs away, or an action game has to be on a way. So when you have something that is good and that has a good story behind it, it outshines everything else. Like for example, my big example is The Last of Us is my
Oh,
favorite
sure. Yeah,
game,
yeah.
especially the second part, because it's not about the game that is important, but it's all the story of the characters, the journey they go through, and the game is like something you do between what the action really happens. So it's brilliantly done. So and my idea is, okay, I want to do something like that. I want to put myself in a position that I can do something like that.
That's a
Something.
great example of a
Yeah,
story-based game. Are you, by any
yeah.
chance, did you play Starfield?
No, I haven't played that one. It's good.
Oh yeah, yeah, very much so. And not for everybody. Where I was going with it, it's very kind of open-ended. There's like 1,000 planets to explore, something like that.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be a space world simulator. But I follow RPGs. I'm an RPG fan, all the way back to, I guess maybe Zelda was one of the first RPGs.
Yeah,
But
for
I'm an
sure.
avid gamer, so I'm right there with you. And there's definitely a pronounced effort in the AAA titles to deliver story-based video games. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, because the
Like
thing
2 years
with
ago, Red Dead
stories,
Redemption.
with thing with stories is that you can expand. That's something they always love, like to expand to make more video games based. Because normally the problem with especially with triple A games is like they're very expensive to produce because you have to create a whole game engine, you have to create a whole different assets, you have to create a lot of things before even releasing a beta test or something like that. So they want something that is very solid, very well constructed that they can milk forever. Example, Resident Evil, for example.
Yeah.
That was like a kind of simple idea. Oh, this is a story about an evil corporation and the zombies are involved. But then we have the group of cops,
Yeah.
and they've been doing that since the 90s, because that's another one of my favorite games. And the story has got more complex. Sometimes it goes too crazy, so sometimes they go off the rails. But as the main as the starting point was kind of good, and some people were very good to be able to add up to that sandbox. So it has become this huge thing. So they, of course, they're looking for something like that. The thing is that it's not so easy to get, especially a writing job in one of those gigs, because you have to have like a track record
Right.
of
Right.
successful things, and again, that's not easy. But hey, I have all the time in the world, I would say. So I'm getting ready for that. That's
Yeah,
that's
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 the
what
main challenge, right? We only have a certain amount of time to devote to each project. Where are you
Yeah,
right
that's why we
now
have
with
the
the?
studio mainly. That's why we create the studio, because I don't want it to be something just focused on comics or novels. Or that's why we do also 3D. That's why we do animation from time to time. We're starting to do cinema now, like short films. So we want to expand, not to focus or to limit ourselves to just one thing or two things. We want to do as much as possible. I would say that the one of the main things that the Disney got right is like do it once and sell it forever. So they just expand, and that's what makes money for them. It's not just the main thing. The movie is just an excuse for everything else. That's what made George Lucas who he is. It's the merchandise, it's the all the extras. It's not the film. The film is like, okay, this is an excuse to sell all these other parts.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I agree. And it's something that collectors have always kind of been that way, whether it was the book or the action figure or whatever the accoutrement was that goes with the property they were following. Even video games too. They don't do this as much lately, but I used to like the limited edition video game release that would have like a figurine with it, or I
yeah,
like the maps and things like that.
talking about that, you see, I have Ellie here. I don't know if you see her.
Oh
So
yeah, sure, absolutely.
this is
Yeah, that's
the
a good one.
Japanese edition with the statue. So yeah, I have a couple of those.
Yeah.
I have this one. I have the God of War one. So
Oh,
like when
nice.
I
Yeah,
see
we played God of
when
War.
the game is good, I will have some. I want to have something extra, not just the game.
So how about, are you prepared to answer this question? Is the preference PS5 or Xbox?
I'm more a PlayStation. I have them all. I play them all. The only game that I kind of like for Xbox is Gears of War,
Yeah.
but you can do that online now, so
Yeah.
it's no reason at all for me
I
to.
I sort of prefer the hardware of the PS5, but I haven't been exactly thrilled with the number of AAA games that have come out from it.
Yeah, but
We got an Xbox as a second thing, and we use the Xbox every day because we have Game Pass for that. So it's just like a big library.
But lately it's been a dry season. I would say the couple 2 years you haven't had that many. And most
Right,
of our like second parts or third parts or remakings or
right, exactly. Yeah.
re or revamping old games for the new platform. So they haven't because of
Where is
that.
the new? And it could be Xbox too or PC, but where is the new Fallout? Where is the new? There should be more Last of Us material. There should be more.
Yeah,
Grand Theft Auto. We're
yeah,
still on the
yeah.
one
But we're
from
waiting for
eight
that for like
years
almost a
ago. Yeah,
decade.
uh, and Fallout 4 came out in what 2014 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
even
that's
that
what
one's
was
10
was
years old.
mentioned before. Triple A games take a long time to do,
Yeah.
especially nowadays that people bitch about anything, like what happened with Cyberpunk. Oh, they were so horrible. Say, hey, dude,
Was
relax.
Cyberpunk good? I didn't try it. It looks like I would like it though.
Now it's good, but when it was released, it was a
I heard it
disaster.
had some glitches and stuff. Yeah.
It had a lot of glitches. But that's the thing is, hey, people, you have to, I think that
It's
they
part of the
screwed up a little
process, right?
bit there. They should have done more beta testing before releasing it because they know that they're gonna get hammered on the internet if it doesn't work flawlessly or almost flawlessly.
Hmm.
Nowadays, nobody, especially because everybody has a YouTube channel now, and everybody, can not only because back in the day when you had a bad experience with something, you tell everybody you knew, but your radius of your your circle was kind of limited by physicality. Now there's no physicality really, especially if you have several social media because you can, you know what I'm saying. So you can spread it here. You have 15, then you have spread it. You have 500, and those are gonna tell. So it's what happens. What happened with this with the movie with this video game industry is something similar to what's happening with the movie industry.
What do you
Projects
mean?
have gotten way too big, and we have things that are way too expensive. You have too many people nervous, because you have the investors, you have the producers, you have the directors, you have the studio heads, you have a lot of people nervous. And something that Tarantino was explaining some in an interview is like there's no middle ground anymore. There is just like the triple A or the billion movie or the 300 or the behemoth, the very big things, the
Right, right.
blockbusters,
The tent pole.
or the nothing, the
Yeah.
very indie street budget, shoot it with your phone. There's
Hmm.
nothing in the middle.
Nothing in the
There's
middle.
no
I got to say,
middle
I
range.
agree with you. I agree with you there. I read an article and the guy what he showed was, I think it was 2023. It wasn't this year, but he did a map and the map showed out of 25 of the films, 23 of them were sequels or remakes. And it really makes you go, oh boy, that's not good
Yeah,
standing. But it's like you say, the executives get nervous. They're in the business of making money. And,
yeah,
Alien 7, does better than a new
yeah.
franchise.
Of course, mainly because of the budgets. Because um, you have to bear in mind that in the movie industry is not only the costs of the movie, is the marketing that's associated with the movie. That's normally the double. So if the movie costs, I don't know, whatever, 500 or 100 or whatever, you have to at least double that, sometimes
Double it, right?
triple that,
Yeah.
because that's the marketing budget, which is crazy also because it's
It's
something
hard to believe,
you
and
shouldn't have to
that's
spend
part
that
of the
much money.
problem, I think, too, with the video games because it
Yeah,
is, they're AAA, so it's the same thing. We're seeing remakes and reboots, and they have these hundreds of millions of dollars of marketing budget. One of the statistics is that, and this isn't new; it's been this way for several years, but the sale of video games by itself is something like 3 times the amount of movies and
yeah,
music combined.
yeah.
So it's like the video games dwarfs everything else now. And even their budgets, the budget for just the music is more than most movies are in a game. So it's hard to believe these kind of ballooning costs.
Yeah. No, the thing is that what happens is that things got way too big, way too fast, and especially when you have people who are not creative and in making decision, or think of who think they're creative, because that's something that Frank Zappa said a couple of decades ago. When I started in music, the producers, the exec didn't know anything about music. They were all people who just, oh, who is this hippie, whatever. But now the producers are, they think they're hip, they think they know about it, and so they want to have input on what you create. And
Sure.
no, you're not a musician, dude. You're not a creator. You're not a writer. So
Right.
shut up, sit there, don't bother me. You know. So, and that's the thing that's happening a lot nowadays, especially when you don't have a name behind you on the get go. When you are when you the put you when you give you when you're hired to do a movie or a project or whatever, there's a lot of people that's just gonna make decisions for you. That because they're the one that have control the money, that the producers. That's what happening, for example, nowadays with Lucasfilm, with the whole Kathleen Kennedy and all that jazz. Is that she's the one really making the decisions. It's not the directors, not the writers. Forget about that. No, 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 no. She's the one that she's the buck stops on her. She's the one that says yes or no. She's the one that greenlit things.
Right.
And the
Right.
things that she thinks she's Spielberg, or she thinks she's Lucas, or she thinks she's, because she knows these guys for since forever, and she thinks she's a creator. That's the thing. Not really, lady. You are not really a creator. You were in the right place in the right time, but you're not a visionary. You're not. You know how to tell stories, and and
Right.
and
Right.
and the thing, they give you the keys of the kingdom, and oof,
It's
and especially when you are in that position, it's very hard to let you go because you have a lot of people to respond to do that. So
Christian, you make a good point there because I sometimes use the example of, because by the way, I love Star Wars. I'm not a hater, but
yeah, for
I
sure.
will agree
Who
that
doesn't?
most of the latest efforts have been pretty weak.
Oof,
And it's
terrible,
compared to, yeah, they're very weak. Let's be honest. They're terrible.
terrible.
People can't wait to not watch them. Like when I was a kid, something Star Wars was always going to be cool. Now it's almost always something kind of uncool. But well, I'll save that for another day. Where I'm going is that if you look at how Kathleen Kennedy approached the franchise versus how Kevin Feige approached
Yeah,
the Marvel franchise,
yeah,
like he did this sort of very loving, and it was very far-sighted. Like if you
yeah,
see the first Iron Man in 2008, right?
yeah,
And then compare it to Infinity War, which is really the
yeah.
capstone,
Of course, they
summing
build
up
up something. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
a huge buildup. And if you would have said, oh, we're going to build up to this climactic film and it's going to have, 34 characters and each one's going to have memorable script and memorable, you'd be like, what? No way. But they really did. And it has these callbacks to the earlier movies. And I guess what I'm saying is maybe Kathleen Kennedy might have been better served to approach it that way, with more on the fan service and less new direction or whatever you want to
Yeah,
call
but
it.
she also need to know how to surround yourself with people who have the same, or who share that vision.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned Iron Man. One of the person who built Marvel, I don't think it's Feige. The person who built Marvel was Favreau,
Oh,
John.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
the guy
Yeah.
who built the Marvel universe. Sorry, Kevin Feige, you don't know. Not he didn't do it. It was him. He was the guy who set up the tone. So he said, "Oh, this is gonna be
Yeah.
serious. Hey, this is gonna be
And he
good.
made the
Hey,
visual look of it too.
we're not gonna go with shitty CGI. Hey, we're gonna tell the story. Hey, these guys are complex. Hey,
Mm.
he said that it's like he did the pilot. If you know about anything about cinema, about TV, the guy who directs the pilot, who set up the whole thing for the whole run of the series. So he sets the tone, the characters, the ambience, the everything. So that, and he was the one who did that, and he also did it when he went to Lucas. He did it with the Mandalorian. So
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
who
Sure.
know what he's doing.
Yeah. So he's maybe the best at it.
Of course. So you need to give the keys on the kingdom to a guy like him. Okay, that he has a vision, he has a style, he knows the material, he knows how to work with, who surrounds himself with really amazing talent. So that's the person you give. You don't give the keys on the kingdom to somebody you kind of know and kind of like and kind of fits a quota, and because she's this gender or whatever, or no, no, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. That's not how you handle business. You need to be very. And the thing is that the guy that I think is Iger, the CEO they have now at Disney, they're starting to get it. They say, oh, we're not gonna produce more. We're gonna do more quality, because of course they're drained. It's like they're burning money. It's like the scene of the Dark Knight when the Joker started to burn money, piles of money. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff like that. but not once. They have done it several times. So it's become very crazy. And the thing is that when you talk about a big company, they have shareholders and they don't like that. They don't have like you have a falling quarter and another falling quarter.
Right,
Oh,
right, right.
and no, we just lost like 500 million on this. I said, what? 500 million? What did you do to lose 500 million? Oh no, we the audience didn't get it. I said, what? And that's your excuse? How much are we paying you?
All right.
So that's the thing. But so you need to have. That's why I love when they hire James Gunn to get the DCU, because he knows what he's doing. He's a
Yeah.
guy that has vision, that has that knows the material, that know how to surround himself with good people. They can put the right people in the right places. You need
Yeah.
somebody like that who's very good at.
I thought he was off to a good start with some of the stuff that he was building. And I liked even some of the, Zack Snyder too got a lot of hate, I thought. And I thought some of his stuff was pretty good. I
Some of
liked,
his stuff is good, but he needs
yeah.
to be on a leash.
Did you like Man of Steel? That was
Yes,
Zack Snyder, right?
but the only one that I like, the rest are. But he needs to be on a leash because the
How
problem with
about,
Snyder is very good visually,
yeah, he
but he
is.
has a problem with story. He has a
That could
big
be
problem
true.
with story.
I didn't like Justice League all that much. I felt kind of confused. How about, did you see he did the Dawn of the Dead remake,
Yeah, that
2004?
wasn't bad.
Yeah,
That
that's one
wasn't
of my
bad.
favorites by him. One of the
That wasn't
best.
bad.
We used it all the time as our example. The best apocalyptic opening. Remember, the first 3 minutes shows the end of the world. And it's like a really cool
Yeah.
setup.
No, once again visually he's like Cameron in a certain extent. James Cameron is a fantastic visual guy.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
sure.
one of the best on his thing. But that's it. Don't ask him to do an airtight script because he's not going to be able to deliver. He
I
can
don't
maybe
particularly love. We're talking about James Cameron, right?
yeah, yeah.
Which I would agree with you because what's a good way to say this? Like his earlier stuff was really good, but when you progress into Avatar, there are
It's
these
terrible.
overblown $1 trillion productions, right? And I didn't like the first one, and it was okay. Look, I'm not saying again, I'm not a hater. It was okay, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like get its own section of Disney World good,
No, of course. It's not the Godfather for sure.
right?
It's,
And when you talk about like I say this all the time, like, hey, Avatar's this great movie, this great movie. Can you remember a character in it? I can't. Can you remember one line of it? I can't. But if you talk about something like Star Wars or Iron Man, well, sure, it's Luke Skywalker, and he said, you can rattle off the, may the force be with you. They have these lines that stick with
yeah.
you. Avatar's not like that, and I think that kind of proves your point, Christian, because
Yeah. No,
you said it's
it's
great
just
visually, but the story is
yes, and that's a problem with everything nowadays. It's just it needs to be incredible. It's something. It's what happened also a lot with comics. So you have in the big two, you have this amazing artist with amazing skill that are mind blowing, but the stories is weak, very weak because they don't pay attention to that because there's nobody at the helm that's paying attention to that. What they do is they have what I call the spaghetti um, strategy that you just throw pasta to the wall to see which one sticks.
yeah.
And okay, so that's the one we're gonna do. And they overflow. There's a strategy in business called dumping, in which you just throw things out there and to overcrowd the market, so you destroy your competitors, and that's why they have 30 releases every week or something like that each. So 30 DC and 30 Marvel. It's like, why? Because they know the stores, they don't have that space to put anything else but those two. So Image is struggling, Boom is struggling, and of
Yeah,
course,
that's
forget about the indies. The indies, like, we don't
boy, oh
know who.
boy, I tell you, when you look at the numbers of comics publishing, and I know you and I both we're small publishers, right? So we look at the
Yeah,
numbers. The numbers are atrocious, folks, and it's to a level where
terrific.
I was recently at the Ringo. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. I was a guest of Comics Wellspring at the Ringo Awards in Baltimore, which I love to go because it's great for networking and you meet all these great people and you get it's backstage at the industry, right?
Yeah,
But then they show like some of the sales numbers. And of course, I've been around comics a long time. And it was, oh my, these numbers are terrible. And like not even a tenth of what they were. I always used exaggeration. In the 1940s, before there was all kind of streaming media and this kind of thing, you could buy a Shazam comic book. That book might sell 1 million or 2 copies. And of course, they were only 10 cents back then. And I'm not saying that, we'll never sell 1 million copies again. That's impossible. I get that. But, Walking Dead #1, a huge title, sold something like 6,500 copies. That's the first time around before reprints. It's gotten since more popular now. But where I'm going with it, somewhere we are missing the boat on how to promote these great new IPs, even for the really good ones, like The Walking Dead, which I'm mentioning. Most people love it.
Yeah.
Selling 6,000 copies is not very impressive.
No, in the States, no, that's a very ridiculous number. Yeah. But the thing is that it's just they get lost. And that's what happens. That's why you and I, we have to go out there and promote. Because
so let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Christian, what can we do as small publishers to get noticed amidst this deluge of material?
Well, first we have to produce less and focus more on quality, more than quantity. That's number one. Because I see a lot of small publishers and medium publishers trying to play the game the majors play and overflood. And every month is a new release. And
their books aren't as good.
Yeah, and the thing is that the thing that we copying the majors, they're gonna magically there's gonna be they're playing the same model. They're just throwing spaghetti to the wall to see which one sticks. That's one. So do less. It's like one of the tenets of the Tao. No, if you want to achieve more, do less. So not saying so. No. Don't do more. Focus on doing less, but with more quality. That's number one. Number two, you have to think of this as a global following. What you need to build. You don't need to circumscribe yourself to the US or to UK or to Europe, and not to one language. You need to know that you have to expand. That's why, for example, that's why we publish in 3 languages and want to expand to a 4th one next year.
What are your languages that you do right now?
We do Spanish, English, and Japanese.
Nice.
And we want to do the French. That's going to be because that's the key one in Europe. That's the one where they sell the more. So you need to expand that reach. So you need to publish in several languages. Another thing very important
I do a French language, but it's it's what they call a Canadian edition. I understand Canadian French is a little bit different than European French. Colloquially.
It's not the bande dessinée. It's not the big
well,
album.
sometimes people say, and by the way, I do not speak French, so don't go by my knowledge. But sometimes people say, "Oh, Montreal French." Like, Montreal French is somehow not as pure as European French, which is very possible. Look, I live in a house with a lot of accents and a couple languages here, so I get it that there's different.
Yeah. No, but I mean mainly the market, but because I think that the Canadian market is very tied to the American market. Maybe this, as you mentioned, maybe there's a French part.
Yeah. I think a French person could understand it still.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same language at the end of the day. Yeah. But I don't think it's as big as in France. I give you one piece of information. The first edition normally in the US, even for like the big ones, it's like 10,000 copies. That's more or less what they print of anything. More or less 10,000 copies. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not a big name attached to it. In France, it's 100,000 copies.
See, that's real. Those are good numbers. And when you talk about, we were talking earlier about small publishing, and when I say rough numbers, like it seems very realistic to me that a hot issue of a current title could sell 100,000 copies. And I don't think that makes me a crazy person. Remember, I'm talking about a world where comics used to sell in the millions easily, multiple issues. But I think there's 2 other things that we need to do, which is I think right now we've kind of researched the market and we learned, hey, people kind of like comics still, even though it's 2024. I would say they probably like it a little bit more than my generation. I'm a little bit older than you, Christian, but in the 70s and 80s, comics weren't really too cool. And even the TV shows and movies we had, they weren't really too great. We liked them and everything, but they weren't too great. So we've crossed that corner to where if you were talking to somebody at a party about Iron Man or Hellboy, you're very likely to have a couple people go, "Oh yeah, I freaking love Hellboy," or whatever the shared thing is, right? So we got that beat. The next thing is we've got to somehow bring it back to not just a collectible, but as a reader item. Like, it could be the price point is the problem. I'm not sure. But, you used to always, you could have a comic with you, take it somewhere and you would read it while you were waiting, and it's kind of like a fun thing to have.
Yeah.
This is one man's opinion, but I don't think you get that same experience on a phone. I've got a phone, a Kindle, and an
No,
iPad, and
no, no, it's
I
not the
don't read
same.
any of them. I just don't like to
No,
read that
no, no,
way.
not the same. It's not the same. No, no. What I saw, what I saw in Europe, the markets that are expanding, and what they're doing is they are selling is more ubiquitous than, for example, the US or Ireland or the UK. It's not like specialized stores only sell comics. It's like the kiosks send the comics. So and the shopping in the supermarket they send the comics. But they send all kind of comics, not the two, not the big two. They have a whole section, like you say, it's a reading item. So the father buys the newspaper, and and he buys a comic for him, and he buys a comic for his son, and maybe he has buy one for his wife.
Right,
So it's
right.
a reading item, okay? And that's something we have to recuperate. And another thing that we have to do is, especially for us, I'm talking about as an indie publisher, we have to be selective with the store that we work with, because that's why I don't work with the big distributors, because I don't want to send hundreds of books and to see if they're gonna sell, if they're not gonna sell, and maybe they pay
Well,
me, maybe
right.
they don't
And,
pay me,
Christian, you
maybe they
make a great
destroy my
point there.
books, and nope.
Listen, I'm right there with you. I'm not sure. I don't always know the answers, but I'll give you this. I'm not sure the answer for the modern creator. It used to be, hey, you get your book into the previews catalog and it gets into the comic book stores. Well, the truth is that's a good thing, but the sales numbers, again, don't justify the retailer carrying your book. Like, you'd be better to do a one-time event and do a signing there and bring the inventory with you. That'd be like an
Yeah,
example, because you'll
yeah,
make much more. If you take the national, and I'm speaking for myself, I don't have that many of big deals, but I like to be transparent to people. Mine is I'm on a publishing deal where I get 10% over everything over above 6,500 copies. But let me tell you, I never hit the threshold of the 6,500 copies. So basically, I get the page rate for submitting the story in the first place, and I get the credibility of having a book available in comic stores. But real money, I don't make anything too much once they go
yeah,
into the store.
yeah,
Because it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong. I'm happy. They've been great to me. But the problem is that comic book stores struggle to sell Spider-Man. They struggle to sell Justice League. They have a tough time with these sort of unknown
yeah. No,
properties.
because they normally they already do, they have to spend, as I mentioned before, because of the sheer volume, they have to spend
Mhm.
a lot of money,
Right.
resource, and time and space on those part of the market, and they totally neglect the other one, the one that is growing, because indie comics is growing
Yeah. Yeah.
exponentially more
It
than they.
does seem right. Well, at the same time that we're seeing, and thanks for bringing this up, Christian, because I agree with you 100% on this one too, which
Yeah,
is as we're seeing sort of the decline in modern published comics and even the notorious sales decline numbers, we're seeing the indies eat up those gains a little bit, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it
because we're
used to
doing
be,
something different. We're not doing superheroes all the time. We're not
right?
doing,
Yeah.
the usual stuff.
Yeah.
We're
I
not
don't do any.
doing
Do you do any hero
Lovecraft
books
all the
over there
time.
at,
We're doing other stuff.
do you do hero books over at your
I
studio?
don't do any superheroes.
I
I
don't
have a
either.
very strong opinion about that. I have said it many times, and I'm gonna say it again. For me, they are the cancer of comics.
Okay, expand on that. That's a great ringer there. Let's hear that statement.
Superheroes are the cancer of comics. We have to stop doing them for a while, at least, because the first thing that anybody who's not in the game think when they think of comics, superheroes,
Right, right. Especially in
and no,
America.
everywhere. Well, yeah, exactly,
In
especially in
Europe, they
America.
got a little bit. In Japan, some other stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. In
but
France,
I
it's
agree with
different,
you.
and Japan is
Yeah,
different. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
But I
Especially
agree
in
with
the
you. I
US
agree with your
and
statement.
the Anglo-Saxon world, let's call them. Okay, it's not only US and the UK. In Ireland is very similar too. Even Spain is kind of similar too. So we have to stop, because this is an art form, people. Okay, this is not for kids, because they have the same prejudice that I had 12 years ago, where I didn't know. Oh, this is for kids. Oh, this is superheroes. No, 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 no. This is an art form. Okay, like cinema, like music, like painting, like sculpting, is not circumscribed to one genre of telling stories is not circumscribed to kids. So we have to stop doing that. Stop altogether. Or if you are, if you are Alan Moore, if you are Frank Miller, yeah, of course you can. Those 2 or 3 people can still do superhero comics, but that's it. Everybody else should stop, because you're not that good, and you're making everybody else look bad by doing so. Okay, so again, my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like this to hear this. Oh, because there have been so many years and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you have to stop doing it.
The one that
Okay, they
cracks
was
me up,
slavery for
Christian,
300 years, and we stopped doing it. So
listen,
no,
I get this all the time. When I say all the time, I've had this a few times. Like people sometimes submit to me because I'm a small publisher. Maybe I'll want to publish
yeah,
their story. And generally speaking, when it's a superhero story, and the person might say something like, "Hey, well, I want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement before you can read my superhero story." I want to go, buddy. Superhero stories are the least original. Because they always got this great idea, and it's, well, he's an alien from another planet, and he gets these powers, and I'm like, dude, that's every superhero. There's nothing original about this. So
yeah,
I guess my point is that it's been, when I say done to death. First of all, I like superhero stories. There's a couple of good
yeah,
ones, right? There's some great ones
yeah,
even. But the
sure.
truth is, if you're going to try and do that, you got to really be good at what you're doing to even get
Not
noticed.
good. You have to be excellent.
You got to be excellent. Yeah. And there's a
Not good.
really high chance that what you'll turn out will not be that good.
You have to be excellent. And how you know you're excellent? Because you have sold a lot of copies. Not because your mom told you you're excellent, or your girlfriend, or your friend, or your neighbor, or no. Because you have sold a lot of copies. You have what is called market validation. If you have that, okay, run with it. If you are Jason Aaron, run with it. If you are I don't know, what's the name of this guy? The guy from The Boys. Oh, shush, I
Garth
forget his name.
Ennis,
He's gonna kill me.
Warren.
Grant Morrison.
Grant
Okay,
Morrison. Oh yeah, I'm a
yeah,
Grant Morrison fan. Sure.
you know what I'm saying. So there's a handful of people who can do it good, but they have market validation. Okay,
Yeah. And when you
that's
talk
it.
about Grant Morrison, remember he redid a bunch of them. His were always like remakes, right? Like he did the Doom
Yeah,
Patrol upgrade. He did Animal Man, right?
yeah.
He did there's one other one. Oh, he redid the X-Men.
Yeah.
But
No, no.
again, your point is correct though, Christian, because you said that's because he already had that market viability. He was always
Yeah, of course.
success. And
Because
he came
it's not
across sort
good,
of
it's
during those
excellent.
Vertigo years when the British writers were writing they were
Correct. Correct.
revamping all the, and they weren't even
Correct.
necessarily heroes. They were almost more like horror titles, right? Because you had
Yeah.
the big hits were Sandman, that was Neil Gaiman's book. There was Swamp Thing, that was Alan Moore's book.
Yep.
There was the Doom Patrol, that was Grant Morrison's book.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing. So you have to stop. Uh, okay, whatever, man.
Yeah, you got a point
Yeah,
there. That's one thing is the indies. I do agree with
yeah. I
we
preach
got
by
to try
example.
to,
I don't do superheroes. I
yeah,
preach by example. I just said that superheroes are the cancer of comics. That's what I just said. People can do
yeah.
whatever they
That's a
want. So
gutsy statement. I appreciate that, man. That'll get us
you know
some
what I'm saying?
views.
And I always lead by example. I don't do superheroes.
Yeah.
No, zero. Don't care. I don't want them. I'm not
Well, and
good enough.
noticeably, when you see the big indie projects that are going on Kickstarters and what I call the 5-figure campaigns, your big ones,
Yeah,
they aren't superheroes. They
yeah,
are horror books. They
yeah.
are, some of them are like sort of medieval flavored, like LOTR, Lord of the Rings type things.
Fantasy
Lots of
too. A lot
adult
of
material.
fantasy.
That's a big thing.
Yeah, a big one. A lot of fantasy too. A lot of horror, Zulu related, Lovecraft. Those
Yeah,
are the big
Lovecraft is a
hitters
big one.
always. Yeah,
I'm never sure how, and first of all, I shouldn't bite the hand that feeds me because I was in one of the Cthulhu anthologies that was on
yeah,
Kickstarter and had a great experience. But
yeah.
before that, I was never really the biggest Lovecraft fan. I don't particularly enjoy his writing. I find it to be kind of dense. And I also think that when you ask people if they like Lovecraft, what you're going to get is not even I like the writing, it's that they've seen some Cthulhu doll somewhere or something. Most people
Yeah.
do not read Lovecraft. Are you a Lovecraft
It's
fan?
very appealing, but it's not my favorite kind of writer. Or I think that others. The thing is that it has a very large fan base, and it's very attractive. And it's very easy. Well, very easy. It's easier a project if you put Lovecraft anywhere on it.
Right.
That it has already it's a contrasted by the market validation IP. So okay, so I understand why some publishers do it, but again, not in that camp. I've done Lovecraft things because they asked me to, and but it's not my. I like horror, but I don't like Lovecraft to be. I don't think Lovecraft is like the model to follow in horror. For example, the other kings that are better. For
Yeah,
example,
it's
so
funny. Just this weekend, I'm watching the DVD of the 1994 version of Stephen King's The Stand.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's great stuff, right? And by the way, I love that book too.
Oof,
But it makes a good
fantastic.
example of the style of writers. Like we mentioned, I don't. Well, I guess one of the things is all the Lovecraft elements are public domain, so that's why people can make a book without.
Also, that's another thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe
No,
that's.
and it's a catchy IP. If you mentioned the most of the big campaigns in Kickstarter, they have or Lovecraft, or they have sex attached to it, or they have some kind of RPG fantasy attached. Those are like the main three categories. Or from time to time, there's some science fiction that kind of like squeals into there because people like the mainly the visuals of it. The
Mhm.
writings is not that good, but the visuals are impacting and the campaign is mind blowing. So they hit those figures. But those are the I'm gonna call the easy, secure options. Okay, you still have to do a good campaign. You still have to have a good product. But it's as you mentioned, it's not superheroes. It's not empowering minorities, and
Right.
you're doing something very niche,
Right.
and you want to give it to the mainstream. You want to spoon fed the mainstream with that, and the mainstream say, I don't want this, dude. I
By the way,
understand.
you bring up a great point. You bring up a great point because I don't actually have anything against those things like you brought up, but I have noticed that it doesn't help the sales, right? They put it out there to frame like sort of an argument, like, well, if you don't like this, you're bad, right? But well, no,
Yeah,
just give me a good story. I don't really care who the character is. I
of
just like
course.
the story. Like it's almost silly at this point when they say, well, you don't like a story with a female character. That's one we hear a lot. So, well,
No,
wait a
that's
second.
bullshit.
Rogue One
I love
was my
Alien.
favorite. Yeah,
What are you
that's
talking about?
not true at all. So it's something in the writing that they're fumbling, what the message is, I think.
No, it's just the thing that creating is ticking boxes. Oh, it needs to have a female, it needs to have a strong female character, or it needs to have a LGBTQ, so it needs ticks all these boxes in order to be good.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
really.
not good.
If creating something successful is a formula, then everybody will do it.
Right, right, yeah. Lightning
It's
in a
math.
bottle, man. It's lightning in a bottle.
That's it. No, it's a lot, and it's a craft, and it takes time, and it takes, and you have to have a vision, and you have to be stubborn, and you have to keep honing at it, and you need to put in your hours, and so it's not an easy thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like what other people do with the Lovecraft universe, but also influenced by. Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
there.
good to see
I
you,
totally
Mario.
agree
Good
with
to see
Michael.
you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
And
kind of
I
in that
guess that
camp.
some of that might be because of the public domain thing. At least I assume that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons.
one of my favorite things from let's call it Lovecraft inspired is a book made by Alan Moore
Oh,
called
Neonomicon.
exactly the Neonomicon.
Yeah, yeah. By the
That's
way, what a
good.
disturbing book that is. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Look, I
That's
love Alan
fantastic.
Moore.
I think it's
Unapologetically,
Alan Moore.
I still think he's the best writer. That was
Yeah,
a great book.
Alan Moore is for me is the guy in comics.
Yeah.
It's like whatever
And
he
he,
says. Oh,
possibly that was the most Lovecraft of all the books. Remember, because he even had the language in there, and
yeah.
the guy that
No,
came
and
out of
he,
a
and he also do
painting. It
the
was weird.
letters. He did the letters in the edition, and so he
Right,
he
right.
kind of like he did what he normally does. He ran with it.
Yeah,
Too
yeah,
much probably to my taste,
yeah,
but
yeah.
he's obsessive like that. So okay,
Sure, sure.
once again, if the guy does it, I have nothing to say. Like the
So,
boss.
man, that was we got some great comparisons there, but we talked a little bit about success, right? And I just wanted to ask you, maybe one of our closing questions. What does
Yeah,
success look like for your studio? Is it money? Is it prestige? What does success look like for Christian?
for me, success is not so much string to money. Although money is important, funds are important, but the success for me is being able to do whatever you want with whoever you want, whenever you want. That's a success for me. So I want to work with this guy or with this woman doing this in, I don't know, 6 months time or a year time or whatever. So whatever timeline we have on the pipeline, because we want to be able to promote it well. So that's for me success.
It's a great answer. We were talking about this the other night. Success, especially for creators, seems to not always really be money. Like obviously money comes in handy, but
Obviously.
if it was money,
it's a byproduct.
We do something else.
Money is always a byproduct of something good. And I would say, that's why I love for example, the Field of Dream movie is one of my favorite ones. If you build something good, that's the only thing they miss in that sense. If you build something good, they will come. That's it. Eventually, they will come, but you have to build something good first.
Speaking of something good, so I've been pitching tonight Christian's book. That's volume 2, Pinocchio, Unpopular Tales. I really enjoyed it. And like I say, I don't say that very often. So I'm putting this down as a recommended book. Christian, before we go,
send you an extra copy, right? For the giveaway, right?
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that a lot. And it's very good. So I'm going to be recommending it to people. And if you'd like to tell us where viewers can find you and where they can get your work, we'll end there.
Easy. They can go to unpopstudio.com. That's UNPOP Studio, so STUIDO.com. Or if they also put on populartales.com, that's gonna take them to the page too. They can also see us in New York Comic Con in a couple of days.
Oh, nice. When does that happen exactly?
It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're in booth 1947, a small press.
Nice.
So they can catch us there. And anybody who's in the East Coast is gonna stop by. If you tell us you saw us somewhere, we give you something, a freebie for sure, sticker or something like print or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you,
sir. Wish you best of luck at the convention, man. It was a pleasure to catch up with you, and I wish you every success at the show. Thanks for taking some time with us. Today we've been with Christian Douglas. We'll see the rest of you guys on Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. See you, gang.